In today's episode, you learn how to repair a dent like a pro, from shaping metal, using body filler, block sanding that filler, and priming your repair. I'll give you all the tips and tricks you need to achieve a flawless repair. Howdy, Chris here. Welcome to Garage Noise. This channel is dedicated to teaching you everything you need to know about paint and body repair so you can do your own projects at home, or at least understand how the process works. We've got this Jeep Renegade here today. We're straightening a dent in this door. It's a shallow dent, but it's a large dent. This Jeep Renegade struck a deer, and the deer swung around and created a large basketball-sized dent in the front portion of this door. When a dent is created, it's going to raise the metal around that dent and create a high area, or what we call a crown. So what we need to do is pull out the low area of the dent and tap down that crown to level out that metal. Now I'm going to take my belt sander and I'm going to grind a few little strategic areas where I'm going to pull this dent out with the G90E. Now you can use a lot of different tools to remove a dent and get that metal level. In some cases you could use some PDR rods to push out the dent from the back side, or a cold glue system such as the one I show here. You could also use a unispotter like this, which welds studs onto the metal, and then use a slide hammer to pull that dent out. In this case, I'm going to use the G90E, which welds onto the panel, and then we can slide hammer or pull it out. Once I've got the metal ground, I'll go ahead and set up my G90E. We put the ground on it, and then I can weld this tip to it. And now I can pull that metal out while I tap down the crown or that high area. Now, you never want to pull your metal out too far, because in preparation for body filler, you want that metal just to be slightly in so you can apply a thin coat of filler and block it straight. If you pull the metal out too far, you're going to continually be blocking through your body filler into high areas, and that's going to cause you to not be able to get that panel straight, and it's going to cause a lot of frustration when you're blocking. I'll continue to grind a few pull points for the G90E, and then I'll gradually tap down that crown. I don't want to really hammer that crown because then I'll create a dent. We don't really want to do that. We want to gradually tap that crown down so it doesn't create any dents, it just knocks it down. So now I've got this metal straightened and shaped enough where I can go ahead and grind it with my angle grinder and a 36 grit roll-lock disc. In this situation, I want to remove all the paint from the damaged area. Then I'll take a piece of 80 grit with the orbital sander and smooth out the paint edge and feather edge that out so it's a gradual transition into the rest of the panel. Now I want to clean it with some isopropyl alcohol just to get it prepared for some body filler. Here I'm using a technique where I border the area I'm going to put my body filler so I don't go past that. I also am taping off that lower body line so I don't get any body filler below that. Now I'm going to mix up my body filler here. This is the Roberlo R1. We want to mix it up, fold it in so it's all till it's all one uniform color. The first coat I'll lightly press in so it has good adhesion. Now I like to put my body filler over the paint edge. You can apply body filler over paint, over properly sanded paint. Now I sanded this with 80 grit, so that's the proper way to prep out paint surface for filler. And you also want to check your technical data sheet to make sure the filler that you're using is designed to be applied over paint or bare metal even. The reason I like to cover my paint edge with filler is if I don't and I just primer over that paint edge, I feather it out, I primer over it, sometimes that primer reacts to that paint edge and it'll shrink into that edge and create a halo after you've painted it. So by covering it with filler, I eliminate one opportunity for that primer to shrink in that edge. These are some of the different style blocks. I have a small block here, I have a little bit larger block, and then I have another small block. All these are hook and loop. This is a round block that comes in handy, and this block I use quite often. It's a flexible block, so it molds to the contours of the body, and I'll be using that block later. So we've chosen a block. This is a medium-sized block, and you want a block that's going to cover the damaged area. It doesn't have to necessarily cover the entire filler, okay? You don't want to be sanding deep scratches outside your body filler or the area that you want to paint. So you want to use a block that's large enough to cover the repair area, and not too small. When you're blocking your filler, sand in an X pattern or a crosshatch pattern in all different directions. This will help get it level. Now, if you have a contour in your body that you cannot hold your block flat, do not sand that area with a flat block. You need a block that's flexible, that'll move, that'll mold into that contour of the panel. So this door, on the front edge of this door, it curves out towards the fender. So I cannot block that area with this rigid block. I need that flexible block that I showed you earlier. Now this filler has been sanded and roughed in with 80 grit sandpaper. We're going to have to put another coat on, but I want to go ahead and go down to 180 first. So we put a guide coat on it. This is going to show us any high or low areas, and then I'm going to block it out with 180 grit sandpaper. This will help remove those deep 80 grit scratches. Now I'm going to apply a little bit of polyester glazing putty, and this is a product called Icing, a really good product. Now glazing putty is a little bit smoother and it sands a little bit easier. So you want to lay it on smooth, and then you should be able to block the whatever remaining waves or imperfections are in that panel, or deep scratches. It'll fill those as well, and you can block those out and get it nice and smooth. So we'll put one coat over this entire repair area. We'll block it and then evaluate it once again. Now you may question why I'm applying this over some bare metal. Well, this product is designed to go over bare metal or properly prepped paint. So always check your TDS to make sure the products you're using are designed for the application that you want to use them for. This icing filler will be dry in about 10 minutes, and then I'll apply a little bit of a guide coat. This will show us any high or low areas as we continue blocking this with some 180 grit sandpaper. I've now switched over to the flexible block with the 180. So now I can get in that contour in the front part of that door. So I want to start shaping that and get that straightened out. So I've added a little glazing putty to some of the low areas I found when I was blocking, and I started using a small flexible block that I can precisely block out those areas. Now this repair is ready for some primer, so we'll mask it off. And the primer we're using today is the Roberlo ME1. This is a 2K urethane primer. It mixes up 4 to 1. A 2K primer is what you want to use when you're applying it over body filler. You want to be able to block that a little bit and smooth it out, and have it be able to fill some imperfections. Now this is a really good primer. It also can be used as a sealer when you add a converter to it. The only primer I use right at the moment. And if you're curious about any of the tools or products I use, I have a link to my Amazon storefront in the description. Now we are using the 3M Performance gun with a 1.3 tip, I believe, is on there. And I am going to have my air pressure set at about 15 psi, so you don't need a ton of air pressure for this. I'll also narrow down my fan pattern because I want to be real precise with where I put this primer. I'm going to have my volume turned 2 turns out on the volume. I want to apply 2 good coats of primer on this, letting it flash off 10 minutes in between coats. You want to have enough material on your repair so you can block it out later on to remove any imperfections or waves that may still be there. Being able to shape metal and use body filler correctly to get a panel straight can be challenging, and it's going to take some practice and some time to develop that skill. But if you can master this skill, it'll help you on your repair project, on your restoration project, and if you're going into the industry and you have this skill, you're going to be more desirable for an employer. Listen up, if you found this video helpful, be sure to let me know down in the comments below. And if you've got a project or repair you're working on, consider subscribing to the channel. I've got over 200 videos that are going to help you with your project. I appreciate each and every one of you watching, and if you want to learn more, check out one of these videos now. I'll see you next time on Garage Noise.